What's up people? Welcome back to my channel. As the title of this video says, I have a problem. I don't know how to say this and this does sound kind of weird, but I can't speak well in any language. I mean, that sounds kind of weird, I guess, but it is kind of my truth. So I think I grew up bilingual. My father speaks Turkish and my mom speaks Russian, and at the age of 4 I've moved to England and I went to primary school, learned English, how to read and write, how to speak, and obviously as all the kids that go to school starts forgetting their native language and start speaking the language which they go to school to. And then at that point I don't think I knew Russian, but I knew like Turkish and English. And then I went to Kazakhstan at the age of 15, and that's where I learned Kazakh and Russian. And I think it was at this time that I started realizing that I can't, like I do have some problems, I guess. I mean, before that, before going to Kazakhstan, I was also doing Spanish as my GCSEs, so I learned Spanish. I got an A, I think. It's either an A or A star. So I kind of knew like 5 languages, I guess, at that time when I was 15, 16, 17. And then I moved back to Turkey for university, and that's when I kind of started realizing that I do have some problems. I mean, of course, I didn't start speaking Russian very well. I don't speak Russian very well right now. I mean, I do understand, I can speak and read, but it's not as good as a native speaker. So my background's kind of complicated, and I would move on to school. In university I went for an exchange in France, and there I lived for a year and learned French. And then this summer, like I returned like a week ago, I was in Germany. I was learning German. So I don't know if I can call myself bilingual or not bilingual, like a polyglot or multilingual, but the other like the main 4 languages that I know kind of well is Turkish, English, Kazakh and Russian. But there's one problem, that I can't speak any of them as good as a native speaker, which I feel like kind of sucks, because I mean, what triggered me to do this video is I came back to Turkey. I was filming a story, like Instagram story in Turkish. I posted it and someone wrote, you should start reading like Turkish novels because your Turkish is bad. And I was like, kind of like, yeah, that is kind of weird and saddening in a way, because I mean, Turkish is my native language and I can't speak it as well as native speaker. I mean, it's technically the language that I should speak the best, but knowing so many languages, I kind of stumble upon words. Instead of saying one word, I say the other that's in another language. For example, corridor is in English, koridor is in Russian, and corridor is in Turkish. So sometimes I don't really differentiate, like all 3 means the same thing for me, so I just say it and I assume that the person is going to understand, but kind of doesn't. And I'm so used to speaking with at least bilingual people that I kind of I feel like they always understand me. Like my mom and my dad, they both understand English and Turkish and Russian and Kazakh. So either way, I don't really speak in just one language. I always like mix it up. It's the same with my brother. Like he's like growing up, I have a brother, he's 2 years old and he's grown up bilingual, so he knows Russian and Turkish. and he says like one word in Turkish, the other in Russian, and one word in Turkish, and that goes on and on, because he doesn't differentiate the difference in those languages. Same with me. I realized this yesterday as well, because I met a person, so you know the first time you meet a person, that person just knew one language, which was Turkish, and I was having such a hard time explaining myself, because I mean, I say something and then I realized that not everything I said was Turkish in that sentence, and then I kind of stop and think. And you know, it's kind of, I think it's like one of those problems that like multilingual or like bilingual people face, is like they know that a word or an adjective or noun that exists, you know that it exists, but you don't know in which language it exists, or like you remember that word in every other language, but just not in that language that you want to say. So I had those kind of things. I was like, damn, like I really can't speak I really can't speak one language properly, and I do have problems with people who just speak one language. Which, then again, like I feel like people wouldn't see this as a problem, but you know that feeling of belonging somewhere? I kind of don't have that, because yesterday also I was in Germany for so long that like I only tried to speak German, or I spoke English. And here some students, like some foreign exchange students, came from Ukraine, and apparently I was the only Russian speaking student in the school, so my teachers asked me to help them, like go around school, show them some places, and actually answer their questions, because my teachers couldn't understand them. So I was speaking Russian. It was kind of hard. I mean, I didn't feel comfortable. And also in my previous videos, someone did comment on how bad it was, and how bad my Russian was, and how my spelling was bad, and they described it as blood coming out of their eyes, and I don't know, their ears hurting. So I was never really conscious about it. I wouldn't say that I'm conscious now, but it does kind of bother me. And you know, internet is a great and amazing place. I just wonder if any other people do face the same problem as me. I mean, this video can be like bilingual problems, or like multilingual problems, or the title can be I am, you know, multilingual, or like a polyglot. But when I see like people like those videos like I'm a polyglot, it's just like, it's kind of like me, like they know a couple of languages, like 4 languages very well, and then the other languages they just know like A1, A2, or a B1 level. So generally I do say that I speak French, I speak German and Spanish, but in reality I don't really. It's just like an A1, A2, or a B1 level. I understand French, I can read and write, and I kind of understand it well, because I had to. I lived in France for a year, so that was like an obligation of mine, because I had to go to banks and figure myself out, and you know, do stuff just to be able to survive. So, but in general I do just say that I just speak 4 languages, and Kazakh is my native language, so I also learned it in Kazakhstan. And the other thing is, I don't know any grammar. I mean, that sounds crazy, but I know Russian, I never learned grammar. English, same goes with English. I just kind of hear, and if something sounds wrong, it's probably wrong, and I look at like the word, and if it's written, I mean, I can see if it's not written correctly. I mean, I do have that, I don't know what it is, but I can see if there's a mistake. Same goes with Turkish. I mean, I did study some Turkish grammar, but I don't really remember them right now. But the only grammar that I studied very well is Kazakh grammar, which is very similar to Turkish grammar, but I don't really speak Kazakh at all with anyone. except for my grandparents, which live in Kazakhstan, and I see them like once in a blue moon. So yeah, so I'm a huge believer that you can learn a language without knowing grammar, because that's what I did. But right now, after learning them, it does become a problem because people do realize some mistakes. For example, mistakes such as gender mistakes. Like French has it, Russian has it, and German has it. So there's a word that is either feminine, masculine, or something in the middle. And when I speak, like, it's very easy in Russian because if the ending letter is a vowel, it's feminine. If it's a consonant, it's a male. But it's not like that in French or German. You just have to memorize it. Like, is it a la or a le? Or is it a das or a di or a, what was the other one? Das, di, and der. So yeah, that's kind of me and my problem of not being able to speak a language that I'm supposed to speak very well natively, but I really can't. I can't speak comfortably with a person who just speaks one language because I'm assuming that they know what I'm saying, but at the end of the day they don't know what I'm saying. And it kind of saddens me because when I speak, they're like, yeah, you kind of speak well, but something is off. Like, something is off. So you must be not from here, or it's just that you're just very bad. Your language skill is just very bad. You know those kind of, do you say chavs? Do people still say that, or like find it offensive? It's like, those people who just have a bad accent that come from the countryside. I know this sounds offensive, but that's kind of what people say. Like, people who don't have good accents, so they just mispronounce words and stuff. They just think they're chavvy and they just come from the countryside, or like, I don't know, that's what people say. I don't want to be offensive, but that's what they would assume that I am if they didn't know my situation. So yeah, I really just wanted to know if I am the only weirdo who does that, and if there are actually other people who can also like speak multiple languages and how they speak. Like, do you say, like, for example, I can have a sentence, just one sentence, and I can say I can say stuff in 3 different languages. I don't really use English. I don't really mix English. I just speak English, but I do mix Turkish and Russian very often. Yeah, I guess that's what I wanted to say. And I don't know, just saddening to not have a place that I kind of belong. Like, I don't know. At the end of the day, I think I'm just curious. Oh, how do you guys speak? How do you guys speak well in one language? Like, people told me to just read like novels and stuff, books, but I do read books, and I do generally just read them in English. I rarely read them in Russian or Turkish. I would love to know what kind of problems you had growing up with these languages, and how you guys, cope with it, and how, I don't know, like, I hope I'm not the only one who just doesn't know how to speak well in any language. Because like, when I say well in one language, I really mean like native. Like, you have no problems, you remember all the words, like, you don't stumble upon anything, you can deliver your thoughts clearly in just one language, which is something that I can't do. I mean, even now I am speaking English, but I'm not speaking quickly. I'm usually a person who speaks quickly, and right now I am thinking, which in English too, like, an English speaker who's from the UK would say that I have an American accent. Someone from America would assume that I have a British accent, which I don't know what accent I have. Generally, I did have a British accent growing up, but there is this thing where people don't understand British accents, and I don't live in Britain, I live outside Britain, and everybody doesn't speak English well, and obviously they speak more of an American accent. So when I first went to any country, generally people don't understand British accents, so I always had to adjust my accent towards whatever the accent is in that country. So I would try to speak English with a Turkish accent, English with a Russian accent, but I don't know, my teacher told me that I did speak Kazakh with a British accent, which was funny. I don't know, he just kind of sometimes made me talk just to like listen to what's like Kazakh accent with the Kazakh language with a British accent sounds like. So that was funny. But right now I personally don't think that I have a British accent. I think that I have just, I don't know, I just speak English, I guess. So that's everything I wanted to say. I'm really curious, like I'm very curious if I'm the only weirdo who can't speak its native language or speak natively. Well, I guess I can't say that I can't speak natively. I do speak very well, but I always have some kind of mistakes that people are like, well, she does speak natively, but something like, what? Like, speak correctly. So yeah, I always have to explain people why I speak like this, and like, you speak well in Turkish, but something is just off. I'm like, well, this is the problem, and this is how I grew up speaking, so I have this kind of thing. So I'm just looking at the time, and it's been like 20 minutes, so that's a crazy amount of time. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you subscribe, and you will hear more weird stories from me and more life stories from me, because generally I do speak a lot. Yeah, thank you for watching this video, and please subscribe to my channel. I will be filming every once in a while, if that makes sense. I mean, I do try to post every day, but it's not that easy. So bye guys.